Alright, so this is for the first lesson while I'm gone, and I'm going to go through, you should have three pages worth of work. Now I'm going to go through some of these, and there's going to be some on here also that I don't do, that I'm, we'll talk about how to do them. Then there's going to be some that I don't do that you're going to have to do on your own. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. We're going to start with adding and subtracting polynomials and just generally talking about polynomials. So here on this first problem, we have 2y plus 4y cubed plus 5 minus 3y squared. Okay, so first things first, it says to put it into standard form. Remember, standard form means the greatest exponent down to the smallest. Okay, well, the biggest exponent we have is this term of 4y to the third power. So it's going to start out as 4y to the third power. All right, then what? Well, it'll be minus 3y squared. All right. Excuse me. And then the y term should come after that, because remember, this y has an exponent of 1 right there. So that'll be plus 2y, because it's a positive 2y. And lastly, plus 5. Now remember, what is the degree of a constant? Well, a constant has a degree of 0. Okay, so now this is a polynomial, right? It has 4 terms. It's a polynomial. Now the degree of it is simply the largest exponent, which in this case is 3. So this is a third degree polynomial, third degree. Now this is something we haven't quite talked about yet. Leading coefficient. Well, we know what coefficient means. Coefficient just means the numbers in front of variables. So 4, -3, and 2 are coefficients. And leading just means in front. So the lead coefficient means what is just the first coefficient, which in this case is 4. Alright, yeah, so it's hopefully a pretty straightforward review. Now number 2. Okay, now is this a polynomial or is this a monomial? Okay, in this case, this is a monomial, so it's actually already in standard form. I mean, standard form for a monomial, we can't really reorder anything, so it's just going to be -5xy.
I need to see London Brewer, Jatilan Ross, and Takara Smith to the cafeteria, please.
Alright, so if you remember, the way you find the degree of a monomial is different than how you do it with a polynomial. A polynomial is what the largest exponent is, whereas a monomial, you have to add together your exponents. Well, if you remember, we have an x to the first power and a y to the first power. Okay, so our degree for this monomial is a second degree monomial, because you have to add your exponents together. So 1 plus 1 is 2, giving us a degree of 2. Now lead coefficient, well, there's only one coefficient here, it's that -5, so our lead coefficient is -5. Alright, so let's keep going. Now we have 6 problems of adding and subtracting polynomials. Okay, and it doesn't say it in the directions, but what form should we put this in? Well, we want everything to be in standard form. Okay, we want everything to be in standard form. So even if the directions don't specify standard form, let's be in that habit of always putting standard form. Now we're going to do 2, maybe 3 of these together in the video, then you're going to be tasked with doing the rest on your own. Okay, so let's just start with the first one. Okay, so number 3. Alright, now since we want this in standard form, we need to look for the greatest variable around here. Well, luckily, or not variable, but exponent. So the first term is 2x to the third power. Okay, and if I look around, actually, if I look over here, there's nothing else to the third power. So we can't combine, I can't add anything, so I'm just going to bring that down. It's going to be 2x to the third power. There are no like terms for it to combine with. Okay, so we're good on that. Now we want to move to anything with the second power. So I have 2x squared plus 3x squared. Well, we know 2 plus 3 is 5, so that has to be 5x squared. Alright, so easy enough so far, right? And now here we go. We have -2x plus -7x. So really that's just saying -2 minus 7, right? So that's going to be -9x. And then we have 7 plus 9. Well, that's just simply 16. And if you notice, this is in standard form. Okay, exponent of 3, 2, 1, and this has a degree of 0 because it's a constant. Okay, well, let's go ahead and do, hey, real quick, on number 7, there's a 4 right here. It wants you to distribute that beforehand. We're not going to do that. Mark that out and mark this 3 out. Just treat this as a subtraction between these two polynomials. And let's go ahead and do this one then. This is, now make sure we notice this is a subtraction problem. Okay, so it's just subtraction. So 3x squared plus 2x minus 7 minus x squared plus 4x minus 3. All right, so we'll deal with the squared terms first. So 3x squared minus x squared. Well, that's just asking what's 3 minus 1. Well, that is 2x squared. All right. Now we have 2x minus 4x. Okay, that plus doesn't really do anything for us. We have to pay attention to the minus sign. So 2x minus 4x. Well, that's going to be negative 2x. Alright, and then we have negative 7 minus negative 3. Alright, so here's where subtraction might trip us up. We have minus a negative. So that's really saying negative 7 plus 3. Alright, which is going to be negative 4, so minus 4. Okay, here's our answer. Now, one thing to notice about this is what we call a quadratic. Let's label it as such. This is a quadratic because the greatest degree in this is 2. That is what we call a quadratic polynomial. And let's do this one together, number 8. So the rest you'll have to do on your own, but we're going to do these 3 together. Alright, so negative 3x squared minus negative 2x squared. Alright, so let's just think about the numbers for a second. That's saying negative 3 minus negative 2, or rather just negative 3 plus 2. What is that? That's negative 1, right? So instead of putting negative 1x cubed, I'm just going to put negative x cubed. Alright, now let's deal with the x squared term. So 4x squared minus 6x squared, well, that is going to be negative 2x squared. So again, don't get confused when subtracting these or anything. Just at first, don't worry about the x term. Just do what is 4 minus 6. Then once you get that answer of negative 2, then you can bring your x along with you. Alright, so negative 1x minus negative 2. Well, what are we noticing here? Oh, hold on. I think I made a little bit of a mistake. Yep. Okay, that's actually my fault. Negative x cubed. There's no squared term over here. I accidentally put this 4x squared with this, so that actually can't happen. That's my fault. So this negative 1x term is actually going to go with this 6x right here. Sorry about that. So negative 1x, or just negative x minus 6x. Well, negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7, so negative 7x. And then lastly, we have 8 minus negative 2. Well, that's really just saying 8 plus 2, so we'll get plus 10 right here. Alright, so those next 3, they're on you to go ahead and get those. But you'll do them the same way we did these. Just be careful with your subtraction. So be careful on these 2 especially. Alright. So this one, so you can either finish this video out and then finish the other ones, or pause the video right now and finish these, then start the video back. Okay, here is how we can incorporate a polynomial into a word problem, and it's super easy. Okay, don't think this is more complicated than it is. This says the width of a rectangle is represented by 5x plus 2y. Okay, and the length is represented by 6y minus 2x. Write a polynomial that represents the perimeter of the rectangle. Well, let's first just draw an image. So here's a rectangle. Okay. Now the width of the rectangle, we'll just call this side the width. It is 5x plus 2y. Okay, that means this side is also 5x plus 2y. Alright. And now what is the length? Well, the length is 6y minus 2x. Okay, so this side is 6y minus 2x. And it asks, what is the perimeter of the rectangle? Well, the perimeter is just you add up all 4 sides, right? You do this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. Well, we have all these things we can combine, don't we? Now, here's the one thing you have to be careful of. Okay, notice how we have a y and we have an x. We have x and a y. You can't combine this x with this y. They're different variables. They have to stay separate. But you can combine the variables that are the same. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do the x terms first. Well, I have an x term here, okay, an x term here, an x term here, and 1 here. What is 5x minus 2x? Well, it's 3x, right? Okay, so going with that, what is 3x plus 5x? Well, it's 8x. Okay, then what is 8x minus 2x? Our x's simplify to 6x. Okay? And now we just have our y terms. So I have 2y plus 6y, well that's 8y. Okay, 8y plus 2y, that's 10y. Then 10y plus 6y is 16y. So this polynomial, this binomial rather, this represents the perimeter of this rectangle. Alright, so here is something you'll have to do on your own. Number 12, you do the same thing, except look at that. They gave you the triangle, and they gave you the polynomials. Okay, you want to write what the polynomial is that shows the perimeter of the triangle, meaning you add this side plus this side plus this side. Well, if we have these side lengths, you just add those together. Alright, so that is the first page. You'll complete that. So again, you can pause the video now and do that first page if you would like, or you can go ahead and finish the video, then go back to that. Now we're going to go back into multiplying with polynomials. Alright, so we're going to do a couple examples as a reminder. So look, this is distribution right here. We are distributing this monomial with a polynomial. So we'll just distribute. Boom. What is 2n squared times 7n? Well, all you have to do is multiply your coefficients first. So 2 times 7 is 14. And then n squared times n. Well, what variable's right here? It's a 1, right? So remember, anytime you multiply with the same base, so if that's n squared times n to the first, these have the same base, you're going to add your exponents. So that's going to be n to the third power. So we get 14n to the third power. Now we have 2n squared times negative 8. Now notice, we already know this is going to be negative because it's positive times a negative. Now what is 2 times 8? Well, we get 16. Then this n squared can't really go with anything, so we just bring it over. So 14n to the third power minus 16n squared is what we get. Okay, B you're going to do on your own. And now let's do C. Alright, so now we have 3 terms inside these parentheses. Okay, this is a trinomial multiplied with a monomial. Alright, so negative 3y we're going to multiply. So negative 3y times y to the third power. Well, that's going to be negative. Okay, and the 3 is going to stay a 3. But the y is going to be, so y to the first power times y to the third power. Well, that's going to be y to the fourth power, right? Alright, so then we multiply. Now again, negative times a positive, we know it's going to be negative. Negative 3 times 4, so negative 12. Then let's multiply the y portion of it. Y to the first power times, well, y to the first power. That is y squared. Then negative 3y times negative 7. Well, negative times negative is positive. And then 3 and 7, we'll get 21. And now there's nothing for the y to multiply with, so we just bring it over, so y. And that's our answer right here. So notice we started with 3 terms in our parentheses, and our answer has 3 terms in the parentheses. And that's how it should be. Same over here. We started with 2 terms in the parentheses. We ended with 2 terms. So that's good. Okay. So think back to the previous lesson we had. What is the FOIL method? Do you remember what the FOIL method is? So the FOIL method, just as a reminder, is first outer, first outer, comma, inner, last. Okay, and what that means is if we look at letter A, it means you're going to, real quick, so FOIL is used for multiplying polynomials. Notice how up here we were multiplying a single number with a polynomial. We were distributing it out. Well, this time we're multiplying a full polynomial with a full polynomial. Alright, so this is 6x plus 9 times 4x plus 5. So first outer means you'll take your first term here and you'll distribute it out this way to both of these terms. So 6x times 4x, well 6 times 4 is going to be 24. and then x times x is going to be x squared. All right, now 6x times 5, well, that's just going to be 30x, right? All right, so then inner last means we have to multiply the 9 and the 4x. Well, that's just going to be 36x, and then 9 times 5, which is 45. Now, there's something else you'll notice, hopefully, is that we have like terms in the middle. And that's going to happen a lot. It's not going to happen every time, but it will happen quite a bit. So let's go ahead and write that simplified form up here. So 24x squared. Now 30x plus 36x is going to be 66x plus 45. And that's our final answer. Okay, this would be, and that's in standard form. And another thing to notice is that that is a quadratic. I'll go ahead and spell it out. That's a quadratic because the highest degree is 2. All right. B you're going to do on your own. Okay, you'll do it just like we did with the FOIL method, but you'll do B. And now I want to focus in on C and D. Look at this. We have in parentheses 5y minus 3, and that whole thing is squared. Now this whole thing, I'm going to highlight the parentheses. Okay, I'm going to kind of draw over them. Okay, this whole thing is in parentheses. When you have this whole expression in the parentheses, then an exponent on the outside of the parentheses, what that means is that, well, first, if we had x squared, what would that mean expanded out? Well, that would be x times x, right? So since this is in parentheses, it means this whole thing is being squared. So what you would do is you will rewrite it like this. You'll do 5y minus 3, and you'll say, okay, well, this squared means that 5y minus 3 is going to be multiplied with itself. So we're going to do 5y minus 3 times 5y minus 3. Does that make sense? That's why we did that? Just as a reminder, it's because we have these parentheses here. If there were no parentheses, if it just said 5y minus 3 squared like that, the exponent of 2 would only apply to this 3. But because everything's in parentheses except for the exponent, it means this whole thing is being squared right here. So we have to do it like this. So now hopefully we can see how the FOIL method will help us here. We can do first outer, so 5y times 5y. Well, 5 times 5 is 25. And then y times y is y squared. Alright, then 5y times negative 3. That's going to be negative 15y. Now, you're going to notice something unique here. So the second part of it is multiply the inner term last. So negative 3 times 5y. Well, negative 3 times 5y, again, is negative 15y. So if you'll notice, when we have a problem like this, the two middle terms are going to be the same. And that's just because we are repeating the same polynomial that we're multiplying with itself. So 5y times 3 right here is the same as this 3 times 5y right here. Okay, now lastly, we have negative 3 times negative 3. Well, hopefully you recognize that's going to be positive 9. And now to finish this question out, we do have to combine the two middle terms right here. So that's going to be 25y squared minus 30y, because negative 15 minus 15 is negative 30. We keep the y, plus 9. Alright, and that's our answer right there. And again, this is a quadratic because the greatest degree, the biggest exponent, is 2. Alright, so for this one, I want you to do the work yourself, but I will remind you again, this expands out. Notice how the whole thing is in parentheses. That means you're doing x minus 4 times x minus 4. So x minus 4 times x minus 4. Alright, so that one's on you to go ahead and solve. Alright, so now number 3. There is a football field that has a length of 3x plus 2 and a width of 5x minus 2. What is the area of the football field? Draw a diagram. Well, this is very similar to what we did on that last page. What's a football field look like? Well, it's a rectangular shape. Just very simply like this. Okay, the length of the football field is 3x plus 2, while the width is 5x minus 2. Now, the question is not asking for the perimeter. If it was asking for the perimeter, you would just add up your side lengths. Okay, it's asking what the area is. So remember, the area is all the space contained within. And so what that means is, remember, area is length times width. So this is really saying, okay, to find the area of the field, you have to do 3x plus 2 times 5x minus 2. And whatever polynomial answer you get, that's going to be your area. And now I'm not going to work this one out. Okay, we set it up together. I want you to FOIL to go ahead and find your answer. Alright, so next is we're going to look at a couple more challenging pieces. And not really more challenging, but there's more work involved. It says let's multiply some larger values. Now what do I mean by larger values? Well, it's a polynomial times a polynomial again, right? However, over here we were multiplying what we call a binomial, okay, 2 terms times 2 terms. But down here what's going on now? Well, it is 2 terms times 3 terms. Okay, so there's going to be, we're probably seeing how we're going to end up with a little bit more work. Now here's the thing. FOIL still works for us because first we multiply the outer term, and let's do that. Let's distribute it out. 2n times 4n squared. Well, 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, and then n to the first power times n squared, we get n to the third power. Alright, so let's just distribute again. So 2n times negative 2n. Well, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and then n times n is n squared. Alright, and then the last one for the 2 is 2n times 4. Well, we know that's going to be plus 8n. Alright, so we're not done yet. Okay, we're done with the first part of FOIL. Now we still need to do the inner last, which means multiply this negative 3 with everything in here. And we're probably about to have some like terms to put together also. So negative 3 times 4n squared. Well, negative 3 times 4 is going to be negative 12. And then we just bring along that n squared. Alright, and then negative 3 times negative 2n. Well, negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. And then we just have an n along with that. And lastly, negative 3 times 4. Okay, that is going to be negative 12. Alright. Now, we're not quite done, where there's some like terms to put together. There's a couple different sets of like terms. Now, remember, like terms are anything with the same variable, but also the same exponent. So see how these both have an exponent of 2? Those are like terms. Nothing has an exponent of 3, so there's no like term with this, so I'm just going to rewrite it as 8n to the third power. Okay. Okay, negative 4n to the second power minus 12n to the second power. Alright, ignore the variables for a second. It is just negative 4 minus 12. So negative 16n to the second power, or squared. And as you notice, I'm marking these out as we bring them down, as we combine and everything. Now we have our n terms. We have 8n plus 6n. Well, that is just 8 plus 6 is 14. So 14n. And we have a constant left over, so minus 12. And there is our answer right there. Alright. This one, I'm going to have you do. Okay, this one's on you to complete. Okay, what you'll do is you'll FOIL. So I'll go ahead and draw the lines like it would look like. Okay, you FOIL the first term, the outside term first, to all 3 of these. And then you'll FOIL this out like this. So just like this one, you're going to start out with 6 terms in your answer, but you're going to have like terms to combine. Okay, you're going to have some squareds to combine, just some normal exponents of 1 to combine. So never leave it like this. You have to simplify it, and also make sure it is in standard form, meaning biggest exponent down to the smallest. All right. So again, you can pause it to complete that if you'd like, or do it after you complete watching this video. We have one more page. Okay, and that last page is this right here, and it's only 5 questions. Okay, and I know it's titled Lesson Quiz. This is not a quiz. I just pulled it from an online resource that had it titled as a quiz. So, find the product. We're not going to do this one together, but I will remind you, you will just distribute. Okay, we have a monomial, negative 3y squared, times a polynomial, which is this right here. So you'll just distribute 1, 2, 3 times. Your answer should have 3 terms in it. And actually, I mean, we're already right here, might as well. Negative 3y squared times negative 4y to the third power. Remember, always multiply the constants first. So negative 3 times negative 4. Well, that's positive 12, right? All right, and then we have y to the second power times y to the third. Well, same base, so just add your exponents. We get y to the fifth power. All right, now negative 3y squared times y. Well, you notice it's a negative times a positive, so it's going to be a negative answer. Now the 3 is going to stay a 3, and then we just multiply the y's. So y squared times y, well, that's a y to the first power. So it's going to be y to the third power. All right, and then lastly, negative 3y squared times negative 9. Well, we know it's going to stay y squared because there's no y over here to go with. It's also going to be positive because negative times negative. So what is 3 times 9? Well, 27. Then we keep the y squared. All right, and as you notice, we have 3 terms in our answer, which is good because we had 3 terms here. All right. So this is asking which of the following is the product of these two numbers. What does product mean again in math? Well, product means multiplication, right? So it's really asking what is 7x plus 2 times 5x minus 11. What does that equal? Okay, I'm not going to do that one for you. However, it'll be one of these answers. I wouldn't choose this one even if that's correct, because what's going on here? Well, you got like terms to combine, right? So that's really actually, we need to combine our like terms to see what we're going to get. So let's go ahead and you'll go ahead and multiply those out, and you'll find that. All right. So number 4, I'm skipping number 3 for a second. Number 4, you'll just multiply these out. This is again the FOIL method. Okay, these are the ones we did on this page right here. These problems where you multiply the binomial with a trinomial. Okay, 2 numbers times 3 numbers. So you'll use the FOIL method. You'll do 3x squared times those 3 numbers, and then 7 times those 3 numbers. And I'm not going to do that one, but you'll go ahead and do that one. And this one I'm going to set up for you. Alright, so a portrait without its frame has a height of, well, I don't really like this one. I'd rather do this one when we're in person. So let's save that one. If you have time, if you finish up and you want to try and figure it out, go for it. It's a good question. Let's look at number 3. Okay, complete the table to multiply this polynomial with this polynomial. So this goes back to the table method. If y'all remember, we talked about the table method very briefly in class before I left. So the table method is, as you can see, they've created this table for us, and up top we have this polynomial, and vertically we have this polynomial. And so what you do in these boxes is just multiply these terms together to get your answer. Now they gave us the answer right here, but it's wanting us to prove it using the table method. And let's just do this one together. So in this box, you're going to multiply these 2 terms together. So 6x times x squared, well, that's going to be 6x to the third power, right? Because the 6 stays the 6, the next times x squared is x to the third power. All right, so let's do this one. 6x times negative 4x. Well, we know 6 times negative 4 is negative 24, and x times x is x squared. All right, you'll notice that's not down here. It's because here in a minute, in this box, we're going to have to combine those like terms. So 6x times 4. Well, that's going to be 24x. And we notice it's positive. And I'm not putting like a plus or minus or anything. I'll put a negative if it is, but I'm not going to put a plus. Okay, that's what we do when we make the actual polynomial. So 3 times x squared. Hopefully we know that is just 3x squared. Just put those right together. Okay, 3 times negative 4x is negative 12x. And then 3 times 4, hopefully we know, is just 12. So now we have 6x cubed. Okay, that's right there in the answer. Then the next answer is, or the next part is minus 21x squared. Well, we have a negative 24x squared and a 3x squared. So these would combine together. Negative 24x squared plus 3x squared is negative 21x squared. Then to get the next term of 12x, you would combine these 2 terms. Okay, 24x minus 12x equals 12x. Then we have the 12 right here. Okay, 12, like that. All right, so this is your work for the day. We've done quite a bit of it together, but now it is on you to complete everything else. Okay, I just want to remind you, this stuff is for a grade. Okay, I'm taking a grade every day. Now, don't worry if you get something wrong. I'm not being super picky about if it's right or wrong, as long as I can tell and I know you've tried. So don't get on there and just like write whatever. But really try, really make the most out of it. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll do my best to answer. If I don't answer, it's because I'm just not available on my phone or my laptop at the moment. But email me if you have any questions, and if I can, then I will answer them. And also remember, I have posted a document in Google Classroom that has videos on how to do all this stuff also. All right, thanks guys. Have a great day.